Hello there, and welcome to Sleepy Galaxy Channel. Tonight, you and I are going to take a long, unhurried journey toward a single question, and the question is this: what sits at the bottom of a black hole? It sounds, at first, like a question with a floor to it, like asking what lies at the bottom of a well or a lake or a deep old staircase, and somewhere in your body. The word bottom may make you feel that there is a place down there, a surface, an end, something you could land on if only you fell long enough. But the strange and wonderful secret we are going to unfold together, very slowly, with nowhere to be and nothing to solve, is that the bottom of a black hole is not really a place at all. It turns out to be a direction in time, not a place to fall. Hold that lightly. You do not need to understand it yet. We have hours, and the whole point of these hours is that you will probably be asleep long before we finish, and that is exactly how it should be. Let me tell you what we will wander through tonight, so your mind has a hushed map and can let go of the need to track anything. We will begin at the edge, at the rim of one of these objects, the place called the horizon, and we will feel what it would be like to drift toward it without harm. We will travel inward and meet the idea at the heart of it all, the singularity, and we will see why that frightening word becomes, when you look closely, less like a cliff and more like a sunrise that only ever arrives ahead of you. We will sit for a while with the people who first dreamed these objects into mathematics, long before anyone had ever seen one, and we will let their patient curiosity become a kind of lullaby. And near the end, we will pull far, far back until the black hole is only a dim point among uncountable others, and we will let that vastness hold you the way a wide, dark room holds a sleeping child, not as a threat, but as a covering. If you are enjoying these journeys, a like or a subscribe helps the channel reach others who are also lying awake right now, in other rooms, in other cities, under the same slow turning of the same old sky, looking for somewhere tranquil to put their thoughts down. That is all I will ask. After this, there is nothing for you to do. And truly, there is nothing for you to do. None of this is anything you need to hold on to. You do not need to remember the names, you do not need to follow the physics, you do not need to arrive anywhere by the end. The bottom we are talking about will not ask you to fall. So settle in. Let your shoulders ease down, away from your ears, a little lower than they were a moment ago. Let the weight of your head be fully given to whatever is beneath it. Let your jaw loosen, let your hands rest open or curled, however they want to be. Feel the long line of your back supported, every part of it held. Let your breath find its own slow rhythm without you steering it. Let's begin. We begin, as so much begins, with light, and with the simple fact that light is the fastest messenger there is. Everything you have ever seen, every face, every star, every word on a page has arrived to you on light, carried at a speed so steady and so absolute that physicists treat it as the one fixed beam against which all other motion is measured. Light is the universe's idea of fast, and a black hole, in the plainest possible terms, is a place where even that fastest messenger cannot climb back out. That is the whole definition, and it is gentler than it sounds. A black hole is simply a region where gravity has grown so deep that the path leading away has curved back on itself, the way a road on a steep enough hill might fold over until it points back down. Light that goes in does not get torn apart at the edge. It simply finds that every direction it tries, every road it takes, leads further in. There is no outward anymore. The outward has been quietly folded away. And this is where the thread of tonight first appears, so let it appear without alarm. We imagine that going into a black hole is like falling down, like dropping into a pit, and that somewhere at the end of the dropping there is a bottom waiting, hard and final. But the deeper truth, the one we will return to again and again like a hand returning to smooth a blanket, is that the bottom of a black hole is not below you in space. It is ahead of you in time. It is not a floor under your feet. It is a tomorrow you are walking toward. And just as you cannot fall onto next Tuesday, just as you cannot crash into the afternoon, the bottom of a black hole turns out to be a direction in time, not a place to fall. So even now, at the very start, you can let go of the idea of dropping. There is no drop. There is only a current, and we are going to drift along it together, slowly, and you are perfectly safe. So let us go to the edge first, to the rim, the boundary that has a name as plain as a line drawn in sand. It is called the event horizon. The word horizon is a kind word, a familiar word, because you have stood beneath horizons your whole life. Think of standing on a beach at evening, looking out across the water, watching a ship sail toward the far line where the sea seems to meet the sky. You watch it grow smaller and smaller, and then you watch it slip below that line and vanish, not because anything happened to it, not because it fell off the world, but because the curve of the earth carried it past the place where its light could reach your eye. The ship is fine. The sailors aboard it feel nothing. They cross that line and notice nothing at all. No bump, no edge, no marker, only more sea, more sky, more sailing. The horizon was never a wall. It was only the limit of what you, standing where you stood, could see. And the event horizon of a black hole is precisely this, raised to its grandest scale. It is the line past which the light can no longer reach you. It is not a surface. It is not a membrane. It is not a place where anything is built. It is simply the boundary of the seeable, and like the horizon at sea. You could cross it and feel nothing at all. Let that settle in your chest, because it overturns one of the oldest fears we carry about these objects. We imagine the edge of a black hole as a terrible threshold, a screaming brink, a place where you would be aware in some awful final instant that you had passed the point of no return. But for a large black hole, and the universe is full of enormous ones, you would drift across the horizon as smoothly as that ship slips below the line of the sea. There would be no sensation, no warning bell, no shudder in the body. The stars would yet hang around you. The dark would still be only dark. You would cross from a region you could leave into a region you could not. And nothing in your body would register the change, because the change is not in the body. The change is in the geography of the possible. Behind you, the directions that led away have quietly closed, like doors easing shut in an empty house, without a sound, without a hand. And here, already, the thread is tightening into something you can almost feel. The reason you would notice nothing as you crossed is that you have not arrived at a floor. A floor announces itself. A floor is a hardness that meets you, a surface that says here, no further, stop. But the horizon is not a floor. It is more like the moment in a long afternoon when the light tips over from golden into amber, a change you only recognize later, looking back, never in the instant itself. Crossing the horizon is like crossing noon. You cannot point to the second it happened, because it was never a place. The bottom you are drifting toward is still ahead of you, still in the tender distance of time, and the horizon is merely the gate of hours through which you have begun to pass. It is, once again, and as it will be again, a direction in time, not a place to fall. Now I want to slow us both down and let you feel the sheer size of these gates, because size tonight is going to be a comfort rather than a fear. The smallest black holes that form from dying stars are only a few times heavier than the sun, and their horizons are tiny, a handful of kilometers across, smaller than a city. But at the center of our own galaxy, and at the center of nearly every great galaxy that wheels through the dark, there sleeps a black hole of an entirely different order, one weighing as much as millions or even billions of suns. The horizon of such a giant is vast beyond easy imagining, wider across than the orbit of distant planets, a circle of sky larger than whole solar systems. And the larger the black hole, the more tender the crossing. Around a giant, the pull does not change sharply from your head to your feet. It changes so slowly, so evenly, that you would feel ordinary, intact, yourself, drifting inward through a region of space wider than the path light takes in many minutes, with all the unhurried ease of a leaf carried on a wide, slow river that has forgotten how to hurry. The biggest black holes are the kindest doorways. They take you in without a single jolt. So picture it now, not as a fall, but as a drifting. You are not plummeting, you are being carried. The space around you is doing the moving, and you are simply held within it, the way a swimmer who stops swimming is still carried by the tide, the way a bird that stops beating its wings is still held up by the slow climbing of warm air. There is no effort in it. There is no falling sensation in your stomach, no rushing wind, because there is no air, and because, in the deepest sense, you are not moving through space at all. Space is folding around you, and you are resting in its fold, and the fold is taking you, with great patience, toward an hour that has not yet come. To understand how space can fold like that, let us spend a while with the idea that gravity is not a force that grabs you, the way a hand grabs a falling cup, but a shape that the world rests upon. For most of human history, we pictured gravity as a kind of invisible string, a pull, something reaching out from the earth to tug things down. And in everyday life, that picture works well enough. You drop a stone, the earth pulls it, the stone falls. But a little over a century ago, a patient thinker named Albert Einstein offered a stranger and far more beautiful picture, and once you feel it, it will never quite leave you. He said that mass and energy bend the very fabric of space and time. The way a heavy thing resting on a stretched sheet makes a dip, a curve, a valley around itself. And things do not fall because they are pulled. They fall because they are following the straightest possible path across a surface that has been curved beneath them. A marble rolling near the dip does not feel a string. It simply rolls straight, and straight on a curved surface becomes a circling, becomes a falling in. Hold that image as you lie there, because it is the gentlest way to understand what a black hole truly is. Imagine the most enormous, the most patient stretching of that sheet, a valley so deep that its sides become steeper and steeper until they turn fully downward, until the dip is no longer a dip, but a throat, a smooth funnel curving away beyond seeing. A black hole is the deepest valley in the fabric of reality, a place where the curve has become total, where every straight path, every honest forward step leads inward and downward along the throat. Nothing is being grabbed. Nothing is being snatched. Everything that drifts in is simply doing the most natural thing in the world, which is to keep moving forward along the straightest line available, and discovering, with no struggle at all, that every straight line now bends the same way, toward the center, toward the hour ahead. And do you see how this dissolves the last of the fear? When you fall in the everyday sense, you fall because something pulls you and something else fails to hold you, and your body knows the difference. Your inner ear lurches, your stomach lifts, your muscles tense for an impact. But to drift into a black hole along the curve of space is not to be pulled and dropped. It is to be in what physicists, with lovely understatement, call free fall, which is the most weightless state there is, the state of an astronaut floating in orbit, the state of a diver in the long arc of a dive before the water, the state of the planet itself as it falls forever around the sun and never lands. Free fall feels like floating. It feels like rest. And so the truest thing I can tell you about drifting toward the bottom of a black hole is that it would feel like the deepest floating you have ever known. A weightlessness with no edges, your body unburdened, your limbs released, the whole effort of holding yourself up finally and completely handed over to the shape of space. Let us linger there, in that floating, because your body, lying where it lies right now, can borrow a little of it. You do not have to drift into anything to feel weightless. You can feel it in the way the surface beneath you takes your weight so that your muscles do not have to. Notice that your legs are not holding themselves. They are being held. Notice that your arms are not lifting themselves. They are resting, given over. Notice that even your head, that heavy and busy thing, is set down and supported, and does not need you to carry it tonight. This is your own small free fall, here in the dark, the long, slow falling of rest, where nothing is required of your body and nothing is required of your mind, and the only direction left to you is the one you are already going, which is down into sleep, which is forward into the hours of the night. The thread holds. The bottom is not beneath you. There is no floor rushing up. There is only the soft incline of time, and you are easing along it, weightless, unhurried, carried. It is, as it always was, a direction in time, not a place to fall. And you can let yourself be carried without the smallest fear, because in all this vast and patient curving of space there is no jolt, no edge, no impact waiting. Only the long, smooth throat of the valley and the quiet hours opening one into the next. Now let me show you something tender about time itself, because time is the secret hero of tonight's story. And it does not behave near a black hole the way it behaves in your kitchen. You have always trusted that a minute is a minute, that the same hour passes for everyone, that the clock on your wall ticks in step with every other clock in the world. And for ordinary life, this trust is well placed. But Einstein's same beautiful insight tells us that time, like space, is part of the fabric, and that where space curves deeply, time slows. Near a great mass, clocks run a little late. Lower in the valley, the hours stretch. This is not a trick of perception and not a failing of the clock. It is the genuine texture of reality, and we have measured it here on our own small earth with clocks carried up mountains and clocks flown in airplanes. All of them returning slightly out of step with the clocks left behind below. So imagine, with no urgency at all, what this means near the horizon of a black hole where the curving grows steep. Picture a friend who stays far away, watching, while you drift inward. To you drifting, time feels utterly normal. Your heart beats at its usual pace, your thoughts unspool as they always do. The seconds fall one after another, like faint rain. But to your distant friend, watching your slow descent, your clock appears to run slower and slower, your motions to ease and stretch, your falling to grow languid, until at the very edge of the horizon you seem, from their faraway vantage, to slow almost to stillness, to hang there, dimming, lingering, a figure caught in honey-colored amber, never quite crossing, never quite gone. From the outside, you would seem to take forever to reach the edge. From the inside, you would cross it in a breath and feel nothing strange at all. Both are true. Both are real. Time near a black hole is not one shared river, but many, braiding apart and never quite agreeing, and there is something restful in that, in the way the universe gently refuses to force every traveler onto the same clock. I find this one of the tenderest facts in all of physics, and I want you to let it cover you like a second blanket. It means there is no single, hurrying clock that all of us must obey. It means time bends to circumstance, that it can stretch and slow and pool, that the rushed and rigid ticking we carry through our days is only a local custom, not a universal law. Deep in the throat of a black hole, time leans over and becomes the down direction itself. The future stops being something that merely happens to you and becomes the very ground you move across. And this is the heart of our whole journey, the still center I keep circling back to, that the bottom of a black hole, the thing that sits there waiting, is not made of rock or metal or any substance you could touch. It is made of time. It is a moment. And you cannot land on a moment any more than you can land on next year, which is why, gently and finally, the bottom turns out to be a direction in time, not a place to fall. Let us travel inward now, past the horizon, into the region the old physicists drew so carefully on their pages long before anyone believed such places were real. Inside the horizon, something quietly remarkable happens to the roles of space and time, and I will tell it to you slowly, because it is the strangest and softest idea of all. Outside a black hole, in the ordinary world where you and I live, you can choose your direction in space. You can walk north or south, left or right, up if you have a ladder, down if you have a stair. Space offers you freedom. You may go this way or that, or stand still and go nowhere. But time you cannot choose. Time carries you forward, whether you wish it or not. You cannot stand still in time, cannot turn and walk back into yesterday, cannot pause the afternoon. The future is the one direction you have no choice but to enter, the one road that is always quietly ahead. Now here is the wonder. Inside the horizon of a black hole, the center, the place we call the bottom, behaves exactly the way the future behaves out here. It is not a location you could choose to approach or avoid. It is not over there. In some direction you might steer away from. It lies ahead of you in time, as unavoidable and as ordinary as next week, as the coming of morning, as the next breath after this one. Inside, all roads lead to it, not because they are pulled toward a place, but because they are flowing toward a time. And you can no more steer away from the center than you can. Sitting in your room right now, steer away from the future. You are already moving into it, softly, with every passing second, and you do not feel the motion. Because the motion is simply time, doing what time does. And this, I think, is the most consoling thing I can offer you tonight about a thing that has frightened people for generations. The singularity at the center, that word that sounds so sharp and so dangerous, is not a wall you slam into. It is not a spike, not a pit, not a grinding floor. It is a moment in your future, approached the way all moments are approached, which is to say, by simply waiting, by simply continuing, by simply being carried along the only direction there is. You would not fall onto it. You would arrive at it the way you arrive at the end of a long, untroubled day, gradually, without alarm, the way you are arriving even now at the edge of sleep. I want to pause here and let you rest in that comparison, because your body is doing this very thing right now. You are not forcing yourself towards sleep. You could not, even if you tried. Sleep is not a place across the room that you walk to. It is a direction in time, a softening that arrives when you stop holding the day open, when you let the hours close behind you the way doors ease shut in that empty house. You are drifting toward it the same way a traveler drifts toward the center of a black hole, weightless, unhurried, carried by a current you do not have to row. There is no floor in sleep either. There is only the slow incline of the night, and you, easing down it, letting go of one waking thought after another, the way a swimmer lets go of the warm shallows and floats out into the deeper, darker, kinder water. Let me tell you, while you drift, how human beings ever came to know any of this, because the story of the discovery is itself a long, slow, soothing thing, full of patient people sitting at desks in lamplight, doing arithmetic that the universe would only confirm 100 years later. It begins, as these things often do, in a place of hardship, which makes the discovery all the more moving. There was a German astronomer named Karl Schwarzschild, a thoughtful man who, in the middle of the First World War, was serving as a soldier on the Eastern Front, far from any observatory, surrounded by the cold and the mud and the noise of a war he had not chosen. And there, in that bleak and unlikely place, he read Einstein's brand new equations of gravity, the ones describing the curving fabric we have been drifting through tonight, and he began to work out, with pencil and patience, what those equations would say about a single round mass sitting alone in space. He sent his solution to Einstein in a letter, and Einstein, reading it, was astonished, because the soldier had found an exact answer where Einstein himself had expected only rough approximations. Within that answer lay the first clear mathematical portrait of a black hole, the precise size of the horizon, the throat of the valley, the whole serene architecture of these objects, sketched out by a tired man in a war zone who would not live to see the year end. There is something almost unbearably gentle in that, a person finding, in the worst of human places, a glimpse of one of the deepest and stillest structures in all of nature. For a long time after, almost no one believed these objects could really exist. The mathematics allowed them, but the scientists of the day found the idea too strange, too extreme. A curiosity of the equations rather than a feature of the real sky. Even Einstein himself doubted that nature would ever actually build such a thing. They were treated as a kind of ghost in the arithmetic, a shape the numbers could draw, but the universe would surely never bother to make. And so for decades the idea drifted, half-dreamed, a sketch in a drawer, while the world turned and the stars went on quietly doing exactly what the equations predicted, whether anyone believed it or not. It took a slow gathering of patient minds across many years and many countries to bring the idea fully into the light. There was the work of understanding how a star dies, how a great star, having spent its long life holding itself up against its own weight by the heat of its burning core, must one day run out of fuel, and how, when it does, there is nothing left to hold it open. The astronomers and physicists worked out, step by careful step, that a dying star above a certain size has no stable resting place left to it, no final hard floor on which to settle, and that it must therefore keep collapsing, smaller and smaller, denser and denser, until it slips behind a horizon of its own making and disappears from the seeable world. The very phrase black hole did not even exist for most of this story. It was coined only much later, an offhand and vivid name that caught on because it felt right, the way the best names do. And then, slowly, the evidence began to arrive, not as a single thunderclap, but as a long, slow dawn. Astronomers found stars near the center of our galaxy whipping around something invisible, something with the mass of millions of suns crowded into a space smaller than our solar system, something that gave off no light of its own but bent the paths of everything around it. They found great jets of energy streaming from the hearts of distant galaxies, far too violent to come from anything but matter swirling down into one of these throats. They built instruments of extraordinary patience, and they listened across years until at last they caught the faint tremor in the fabric of space itself, the ripple sent out when two black holes, circling each other for ages, finally merged into one, a sound of a kind, from an event a billion years gone, arriving at last in our quiet listening machines as the softest imaginable chirp. And only a few years ago, joining many telescopes across the whole Earth into a single eye as wide as the planet, they made an actual picture, a real image of the shadow of one of these giants, a dark round absence ringed by a halo of glowing matter, the first time human beings had ever truly looked one in the face. I tell you all of this not so you will remember it, but so you can feel the shape of it, the long, unhurried patience of it, generations of people leaning over desks and lenses and screens, passing the question hand to hand across a century, never hurrying, never giving up, until the ghost in the equations stepped quietly into the light and turned out to be real, after all. There is a deep restfulness in that, in being one small wakeful mind in a long lineage of wondering minds, in knowing that the question you are drifting toward tonight is one that many gentle people spent their whole lives drifting toward too, and that none of them ever had to solve it in a single night, and neither do you. So let us return to the question itself, refreshed, and go a little deeper into what that center really is, the thing the equations point to, the place the throat narrows down toward. The honest answer, the one the physicists themselves give, is that we do not fully know, and I want you to hear how peaceful that admission can be. The mathematics that has carried us all this way, the beautiful curving fabric of Einstein's gravity, predicts that at the very center the curve grows without limit, that the valley grows infinitely deep, that the numbers run off the edge of the page. They call this a singularity, which is simply their word for a place where the equations stop being able to speak. But here's the part that turns the fear into wonder. When physicists say the equations break down, they do not mean that something terrible happens there. They mean that our current description of nature, which works so beautifully everywhere else, runs out of words in that one extreme spot, the way a map of a coastline becomes useless if you try to zoom in closer than the grains of sand. A singularity, in the honest reading, is not a thing that exists so much as a sign that our understanding is incomplete, a polite note from the universe saying, "Here you will need a deeper theory than the one you have." And almost every physicist who studies these objects believes that the real center is not infinitely sharp at all, that when we finally understand how gravity behaves at the very smallest scales, where the rules of the tiny quantum world must blend with the rules of curving space, the harsh infinity will soften into something finite, something rounded, something we cannot yet picture, but which will surely be stranger and likely far gentler than the word singularity suggests. So when you imagine the bottom, do not imagine a needle, a spike, a point of crushing pain. Imagine instead a mystery yet wrapped in tender paper, a question the universe is keeping for us, a gift not yet opened. And remember always that whatever sits at the center, it sits there in the future, not below. This is the thread that holds everything together, the one I keep smoothing flat for you like a sheet pulled gentle and even across a bed. The singularity is not a floor at the bottom of the throat. It is the last tick of the traveler's clock, the final moment of their inward journey, a when and not a where. To ask what sits at the bottom of a black hole is, in the deepest sense, a little like asking what sits at the bottom of tomorrow, or what surface you will strike when you reach the end of the week. There is no surface. There is only the arrival of the hour, soft and certain, the way midnight arrives, the way dawn arrives, the way the deep part of sleep arrives for you tonight, not as a thing you hit, but as a time you reach, gently, having drifted there along the only current there is. It is, once more, a direction in time, not a place to fall. Let us drift for a while now without explaining anything, because you have learned enough for one night, and the rest of you, the body and the breath, would like a turn. I want you to imagine that you yourself are being carried inward, not in fear, but in the deepest comfort, the way an infant is carried, asleep, through rooms it will never remember, held against a warmth it fully trusts. You are being carried. You do not have to do anything to keep moving. The space around you is doing the moving, folding and flowing, and you rest within it, weightless, your limbs loose, your breath slow. Picture the dark around you not as emptiness, but as a vast tender covering, a velvet without edges, drawn close. There is no wind here, no cold, no sound. The stars you left behind have gathered, by a trick of the bending light, into a bright ring high above and ahead of you, a crown of distant suns, their light pooled and folded into a circle of warm gold, like the glow at the rim of a deep, serene pool seen from far below the surface. And you are sinking, not in fear, into the cool quiet beneath that ring of light, and the deeper you drift, the more the world above gathers itself into that single circle of warmth, smaller and rounder and more tender, the way the whole noise of a day gathers as you fall asleep into one last fading thought before it too lets go. Feel how there is nothing you must hold. Out here, in the long fold of space, you could not hold anything up even if you wished to. There is no up, no effort, no weight upon your shoulders, no task left undone, no clock you are late for, no door you forgot to lock. All of it has been folded away behind you, without a sound, the way the directions of escape folded away at the horizon, and you are free of it, wholly free. Drifting in the deepest free fall, which is to say the deepest rest, which is to say the truest letting go. Your only motion now is forward in time, and you do not even have to make that motion. It is made for you, carried for you, the future arriving on its own, the way sleep arrives on its own when at last you stop reaching for it. And as you drift, let me tell you what your body would and would not feel, because even here the truth is kinder than the legend. In the legends, people speak of being stretched, pulled apart, drawn out like taffy by the terrible pull. And it is true that very small black holes, the city-sized ones born from single stars, are so steep at their edges that the difference in pull from your head to your feet would be severe. But we have chosen, tonight, to drift into one of the great ones, the giants at the hearts of galaxies, and around a giant that stretching is so faint, so spread out, so evenly shared across the whole of you, that you would feel nothing of it for a very long while. No strain, no pulling, only the smooth, weightless drifting, your body whole and serene and intact, sailing inward through a darkness wider than worlds. The giants are merciful. The giants take their time, and we have all the time there is. Now I want to turn slowly to a question that may have been resting at the back of your mind, the way a half-formed thought rests just beneath the surface of a dream. If everything that falls into a black hole is carried toward a single moment in time, toward that softly wrapped mystery at the center, then where does all of it go? All those stars, all that gas, all that light, all the matter of vanished worlds swept down the long throat of the valley over billions of years. The honest physics here is once again a beautiful kind of not knowing, but it has within it some of the most reassuring ideas in all of science, and I want to lay them out for you like smooth stones along a path. The first thing to know is that nothing is ever truly destroyed, not in the way we fear. The universe seems to keep a careful, patient account of certain things, of energy, of momentum, of the deep hidden information that describes how every particle is arranged. The matter that falls in does not simply wink out of existence, it changes form, it adds to the mass of the black hole, it becomes part of the curving of space itself. A black hole that has swallowed a star is, in a real sense, made partly of that star now, woven into its deepening valley. Nothing is lost. It is only gathered, folded inward, kept. There is something tender in imagining the universe as a place that does not throw things away, that takes even the light of dead suns and holds it, somewhere, in some form, with great and careful patience. And then there is one of the most surprising discoveries of the last century, made by a thoughtful physicist named Stephen Hawking, who spent much of his life unable to move his body, and yet roamed more freely through the deep structure of the cosmos than almost anyone before him. He found, to nearly everyone's astonishment, that black holes are not perfectly black after all. They glow, ever so faintly, with a whisper of light that seeps out from the very edge of the horizon, a glow so dim and so slow that for any real black hole it is fainter than the faintest starlight, far too feeble to ever see. But it is there. The empty space at the brink of a black hole is not truly empty. It shimmers with tiny fluctuations, pairs of particles flickering into being and vanishing again. And at the edge of the horizon, now and then, one of a pair drifts inward while its partner drifts free, carrying away the very smallest sip of the black hole's energy. And so, across spans of time so vast, they make the present age of the universe seem like a single heartbeat. A black hole very slowly, very faintly, breathes itself away, returning its gathered energy to the wider dark, particle by particle, glow by patient glow. Let that settle over you like the last layer of warmth before sleep, because it means that even these greatest and stillest objects are not eternal prisons. They are more like long, slow exhalations of the universe, drawing matter in over ages, holding it through spans of time we can barely name, and at last, in the unimaginably distant future, releasing it again, softly, back into the wide quiet from which it came. There is no final crushing, no eternal trap, only a vast and patient cycle, a breathing in and a breathing out so slow that a single breath takes longer than the lifetime of every star. And you, lying here, breathing your own slow breaths in the dark, are doing in miniature what the whole cosmos does in its grandest motions, drawing in, holding, letting go, drawing in, holding, letting go, the gentlest rhythm there is, the rhythm the universe itself keeps. So when we ask what sits at the bottom of a black hole, we might also answer, with a kind of soft wonder, that what sits there is everything it has ever gathered, held in trust through the long night of time, waiting in no hurry to one day be given back. The bottom is not an ending, it is a keeping. And even the keeping is temporary, even the holding will one day loosen, even the deepest valley will one day rise and smooth and return to the level dark. Nothing is forever trapped. Nothing is forever falling. There is only the long, slow turning of things, in and out, down and back. And you are held within it as safely as a sleeping child is held within a quiet house within a turning world. Let me draw us back now toward the edge of the body again, because all this drifting through the cosmos is best done from a place of deep physical rest. And I want to make sure your own small frame is as unburdened as the traveler we have imagined. Take a slow breath in, not a deep one, just an easy one. And as you let it go, let your shoulders drop another fraction lower. Let them sink toward the bed as if they too were drifting down a long throat of space. Weightless, unhurried, feel your face soften. The small muscles around your eyes letting go, the space between your brows smoothing flat. Feel your tongue rest low in your mouth, your jaw unclenched, your throat easy. There is nothing you need to swallow back, nothing you need to hold in. Let it all drift inward and down toward the soft and certain hour ahead. I want to spend a while now with the idea of the throat itself, the long inward region between the horizon and the center, because something lovely and counterintuitive happens to motion in there, and once you feel it, the last trace of dread will lift away. Out here, where you and I live, if you fall toward something and you want to slow your fall, you push back, you fire a thruster, you grab a rope, you dig in your heels. Effort buys you time, struggle delays the arrival. But inside the horizon of a black hole, the geometry turns this everyday wisdom on its head, and in the loveliest way. Because the center is in your future rather than below you, struggling against it is like struggling against the passage of time, and struggling against the passage of time does not slow it. If anything, the more you thrash, the more you rush ahead. The travelers who reach the center soonest are the ones who fight hardest to escape. And the ones who last the longest, who have the most time, the most peaceful and unhurried journey through that inner dark, are the ones who do nothing at all, who simply drift, who let the current carry them without a single push. Sit with that, because it is almost a piece of wisdom older than physics, dressed in the language of curved space. The way to have the most time in there is to stop struggling. The way to make the journey long and smooth and untroubled is to let go entirely, to fire no thrusters, to grab no ropes, to release the whole instinct to fight and simply float forward into the hours. And is that not exactly the secret of sleep as well? You have surely had nights when you fought to fall asleep, when you pushed and strained and willed yourself toward it, and the harder you fought, the further it fled. And you have surely had nights when you simply let go, when you stopped trying, when you released the whole effort of arriving, and sleep came up around you of its own easy accord. Like water closing over a stone set down in a pond. Inside the black hole and inside the night, the law is the same. Do not struggle, do not push, let the current take you, and the journey will be long and untroubled and kind. So let go now, the way the wisest traveler would. Release any small effort you are yet making to follow my words, to track the science, to arrive at understanding. You do not need to. Let the meaning wash over you like warm water and carry away whatever it carries. You do not have to hold the thread will hold you. Release the effort to fall asleep too, if any of that effort remains. There is nothing to push toward. The hour is coming on its own. You are already drifting, already being carried, already easing forward along the only direction there is, and all you have to do, the only thing asked of you tonight, is to stop rowing and let the river be the river. Let me tell you, while you float, about how strange and beautiful the sky would look from inside, because the bending of light near a black hole paints pictures unlike anything the waking eye has ever seen, and they are pictures made of warmth and not of fear. As you drift inward, the light from all the stars and galaxies of the universe behind you does not simply vanish. It is gathered, bent, focused by the deep curve of space, until the whole outside cosmos appears to crowd together into a brilliant, shrinking circle ahead of and above you, a window onto everything you have left, growing smaller and more concentrated, more jewel-like, more precious. Imagine it, the entire sky, every star you have ever wished upon, every distant galaxy, every faint and ancient glow, all of it pooled together into a single round pane of light, like the surface of water seen by a diver sinking slowly into the cool dark, the sun above broken into a shimmering coin of gold. And around the rim of that window, the light would smear into rings and arcs and halos, the same starlight wrapped around the black hole again and again, so that you might see the same star many times. Like reflections in a hall of curved mirrors, the whole universe gently doubled and tripled and laid in glowing circles around the dark. It would be, by every account, one of the most beautiful sights any eye could behold, and it would belong only to the one drifting inward, a private and impossible vista shown to no one who stayed behind. The dark you are sinking into would be ringed and crowned with all the light there is, and you would carry that crown of folded starlight with you, deeper and deeper, into the tender inner hush, until at last even that bright window would dwindle to a point and wink tenderly into the wholeness of the dark. And there would be no terror in the dwindling, only the same feeling you have as the last light of a long day fades from the window of a warm room where you are already half asleep. The feeling not of loss, but of completion, of a day fully spent and willingly set down. Let that image stay with you as you breathe. The dark is not empty. The dark is crowned with light. And you are sinking into it the way you sink into the deep middle of the night, carried, weightless, watched over by a ring of distant suns whose light has traveled 1,000,000 years just to keep you company on the way down. Now let us pull back, far back, for a while, and place this whole strange story inside the much larger story of the universe, because there is a great comfort waiting for you in the matter of scale, and I want you to feel held by it rather than dwarfed. We sometimes imagine that the bigness of the cosmos is a cold thing, a lonely thing, that to be small beneath such vastness is to be lost. But I have come to feel, on nights like this one, that it is the opposite, that the great scale of things is more like the bigness of a parent to a newborn, or the bigness of an ocean to a drop of rain that has finally come home to it. Let me show you the scale slowly, one easy step at a time, and let each step ease you further down. Begin with our own sun, that ordinary star, 1,000,000 times the size of the Earth, pouring out the light that has warmed every afternoon you have ever known. The sun is enormous beyond easy thought, and yet the sun is small, a single faint ember among the stars. Now widen your view to our galaxy, the great wheel of light we call the Milky Way. A slow-turning pinwheel of 200 or 300 billion stars, so wide that the light which leaves one edge takes 100,000 years to cross to the other, traveling at the fastest speed there is. And at the still center of that vast wheel, anchoring its slow, majestic turning, sleeps one of our black holes, a giant of 4 million suns, around which the innermost stars swing in their long, patient orbits the way moths circle, unhurried, a single distant lamp. Our whole sky, every star you can see on the clearest night, is just one small neighborhood of that single galaxy, and the black hole at its heart is the still point around which it all quietly wheels. And now widen further, for the galaxies themselves are uncountable. Beyond our own there is another, and beyond them whole crowds of galaxies, and crowds of crowds, billions upon billions of galaxies, scattered through a space so vast that the numbers stop meaning anything and become a kind of music instead. And nearly every one of those galaxies, every one of those billions of wheels of light, has at its heart a black hole of its own, a still center, a quiet anchor, a deep keeping place around which 100 billion suns turn slowly in the dark. The universe is threaded through with these still points, more of them than there are grains of sand on every shore of the earth, each one a tender node of gathered time, each one holding its galaxy together with a patient, invisible steadiness. Feel, for a moment, how far from frightening that is. The black holes are not rare monsters lurking to swallow the unwary. They are common, ordinary, woven into the very structure of things, the steady hearts at the center of nearly every island of light in the cosmos. They are not the exception. They are part of the architecture, as natural and as necessary as the keystone in an arch, the still center that lets the great wheels turn. To be a small mind contemplating them is not to be in danger. It is to be a part of the same enormous, patient, well-built whole, a whole that has been turning quietly for longer than the earth has existed, and will go on turning quietly long after this night is forgotten. And here is the comfort I most want to leave with you, here in the wide dark of scale. All of this vastness, every galaxy, every black hole, every still center, every wheeling sun is going about its slow business without needing anything from you tonight. You do not have to hold the universe up. You do not have to keep the galaxies turning or the stars burning, or the great dark hearts keeping their patient watch. It is all being done, has been done for ages, will be done long past your waking. The cosmos is not waiting on you. It asks nothing of you. And so you are free, entirely free, to set down every weight you carry, every task, every worry, every small heavy thing you have been holding open against the night, and to let yourself be only this, one warm, breathing, resting creature, drifting toward sleep beneath a sky full of patient, turning, self-sufficient light. There is a particular peace in being small, in a vastness that does not need you. It is the peace of a child asleep in the back of a moving car at night, who does not have to read the map, or watch the road, or know the way, who can simply rest in the dark and the motion and the low hum, trusting that they are being carried home by something larger and more capable, which knows the way perfectly well and asks the child only to sleep. That is where you are tonight. That is exactly where you are. Carried in the dark by something vast and patient that knows the way, asking nothing of you, only that you rest. Let us return now to the question at the heart of it and turn it over once more in our hands, because there is a way of seeing it that I have saved for the deep middle of the night, when your mind is open enough to receive it. We keep asking what sits at the bottom, and the very shape of the question imagines a sitting, a resting object, a thing that stays put while time flows around it, the way a stone sits at the bottom of a stream while the water hurries past. But inside a black hole, this picture quietly comes undone in the most peaceful way, because there is nothing that can sit still at the center. Stillness, in the ordinary sense, means staying in one place as time passes. Yet at the center is when, not where, and you cannot stay in one moment as time passes any more than you can stay in last Tuesday while the calendar turns. The center is not a place where things rest, it is a moment that all inward journeys arrive at, each in its own time. And then the journey is simply complete, the way a day is complete at its end, not by hitting a wall, but by being fully lived. So perhaps the truest answer to our question, the one to carry softly down into sleep, is that what sits at the bottom of a black hole is not a thing at all, but a moment. And not a moment of crushing or ending, but a moment of completion. An arrival, the quiet last note of a long descending song. And like all last notes, it is not louder or harder than the rest. It is simply the place where the music comes to rest, where it has said all it had to say and lets the silence in. There is no terror in the last note of a lullaby. There is only the soft closing of the song, the willing handing over to quiet, the sense of something finished and finished well. That is the bottom. That is what waits. Not a floor, not a wall, not a falling, but a finishing. A direction in time arrived at, the way the night arrives at its deepest hour, the way you are arriving, even now, at the deepest hour of your own. Let me give your wandering mind one more gentle thing to rest upon, a small picture to hold loosely as you sink. Imagine that you have been walking all day down a long and easy slope, a wide grassy hillside under a warm and fading sky, and that the slope leads, far below, to a serene lake where the day is ending. You have been walking toward that lake for hours, in no hurry, your steps slow, the light growing amber, and then rose, and then a low and deepening blue. And you know without any fear that when you reach the water you will simply stop and sit, and the walking will be over, and the day will be complete. You are not afraid of the lake. You are not afraid of the bottom of the hill. It is only where the path arrives, only where the day comes to rest, only the still water that has been waiting all along to receive the end of your easy walking. The center of a black hole is like that lake. It is only where the long inward path arrives. And you, tonight, are walking down your own warm slope toward your own tranquil water, in no hurry, the light deepening around you, and there is nothing at the bottom of your hill but rest. Now I want to address, with great tenderness, the part of the mind that may still be holding a small knot of fear, because these objects have been painted as monsters for so long in so many stories that a flicker of dread can linger even after the science has eased it away. If any such flicker remains in you, let me speak to it directly, the way you might speak to a frightened child at bedtime, kindly and without rush. There is nothing reaching out for you tonight. The black holes are unimaginably far away, the nearest one many thousands of years of light beyond your window, and they do not roam, they do not hunt, they do not come looking. They sit, if we can say they sit at all, at the still centers of distant wheels of light, keeping their patient watch, utterly indifferent to whether you sleep, asking nothing, threatening nothing, simply being the way mountains are, the way the deep sea is, the way the night sky is. To learn about them is not to invite them near. It is only to widen the warm room of your understanding, to make the dark a little more known and so a little more kind. And there is, I think, a deep and ancient comfort in turning toward the very things we fear and finding. When we look closely and without hurry, that they are gentler than the legend. The dark under the bed holds no monster, it holds only the floor, and the dust and the hush. The deep of the ocean holds no waiting jaws in most of its vastness, only cold serene water and slow patient creatures going about their lives. And the deep of space holds no devouring monster either, only these great, quiet hearts of gathered time, doing for the galaxies what a still center does for any turning thing, which is to hold it steady, to let it spin without flying apart, to keep it whole. The thing at the bottom of the black hole is not coming for you. It is not even in any way you need to fear a thing. It is a moment far away in a future you will never have to reach, and you may set down every last grain of dread about it and simply rest. Let me tell you a little more about how these great hearts come to be, because the story of a black hole's birth is, in its way, the story of a star learning to rest. And there is a strange beauty in it that may carry you further down. A star, for all its blaze and glory, spends its entire long life in a single steady act of balance, a balance so delicate and so patient that it can last for billions of years. Deep in its core, the star is fusing the lightest elements into heavier ones, and that fusion pours out heat, and that heat pushes outward. And the outward push of the heat exactly balances the inward pull of the star's own enormous weight. The whole life of a star is this one held breath, this one long evening of equilibrium, the press of gravity inward and the warmth of fusion outward, matched so finely that the star neither collapses nor flies apart, but simply shines, steadily, for an age. But no fire burns forever, and one day, after all those billions of years, the star runs low on the fuel at its heart. The warmth that held it open begins to fade. And then the long-held balance tips, and the star, which has been holding itself open against its own weight for its entire existence, finally lets go. For most stars, this letting go is soft. They swell and cool and shed their outer layers in slow luminous veils, drifting off into space as glowing clouds, leaving behind a small warm ember that will cool for ages. But for the greatest stars, the truly massive ones, the letting go is more complete. There is so much weight and so little left to hold it up that nothing in nature can stop the inward settling, and the core falls inward upon itself, smaller and smaller, denser and denser, past every stage where it might have come to rest, until it draws its own horizon around itself like a blanket pulled over the head, and disappears from the seeable world. A black hole is born, and you might think of it not as a violent thing, but as the deepest rest a star can find, the final and total letting go of a body that has been holding itself up, exhausted, for longer than the earth is old. The star stops carrying its own weight. It hands the weight, at last, entirely to the shape of space, and it sleeps. I find that image almost unbearably soothing, and I offer it to you now, here in your own letting go. All your life, in a smaller way, you too have been holding yourself up, carrying your own weight through your days, balancing the press of the world against the warmth of your own effort, neither collapsing nor flying apart, but simply going on, steadily, day after day, the way a star goes on shining. And tonight, just for tonight, you are allowed to stop holding. You are allowed to let the balance tip toward rest. You are allowed to hand your weight entirely to the bed beneath you, to the dark around you, to the slow turning of the night, and to stop carrying yourself for a while. This is not a collapse. This is not a falling apart. It is the deepest rest a body can find, the same rest the great stars find at the end of their long shining, the willing and total setting down of a weight you have carried long enough. So let your body do now what the dying star does, which is to stop holding itself open. Feel the back of your body grow heavy against whatever supports it, heavier than before, sinking, as if the surface beneath you were softening to receive more of your weight. Feel your arms grow heavy, and your legs, each one settling lower, each one handing its weight to the bed. Feel your whole frame let go of the long task of holding itself up, the task you have performed without thinking for as long as you can remember, and let that task end just for the night. There is nothing to balance now. There is nothing to hold open. The warmth that you have spent all day pushing outward against the press of the world can pull back inward now, can gather and bank and glow low, like the last coals of a fire that has done its work and may rest. And as your body settles, let the inward drift of your thoughts mirror the inward drift of the dying star, falling slowly toward a still center, each thought softening and sinking, none of them needing to be solved or finished or held. Let them collapse, gently, the way the star collapses, not lost but gathered, not destroyed but kept, settling toward the quiet heart of you where sleep is waiting. You are doing exactly what the cosmos does. You are letting go of the long balance and finding the deep rest. You are becoming, in your own small and human way, a still center, an anchor, a quiet thing at the heart of the turning night. Let me tell you, while you rest in that stillness, about the matter that swirls around a black hole before it ever drifts in. Because there is beauty there, too, a slow and luminous beauty, and it makes a lovely thing to picture as you sink. When gas and dust and the shredded matter of stars approach one of these great hearts, they do not usually plunge straight in. They circle the way water circles a drain, gathering into a vast flattened ring, a spinning disk that wheels around the dark center in slow, majestic orbits. And as this disk turns, the inner parts move faster than the outer parts, and they rub against one another, and the rubbing heats them, until the whole disk begins to glow, first a dull red, then orange, then a fierce white gold, a great luminous wheel of light circling the perfect dark at its center. These glowing disks are among the brightest things in the entire universe. Some of them outshine whole galaxies, beacons visible across nearly the whole width of the observable cosmos, the light of matter taking its last slow turns before the long inward drift. Picture it, if it pleases you, as you lie there, a vast wheel of warm light, turning slowly in the deep, gold at its outer rim and white toward the center. And at the very heart of the wheel, a round of perfect dark, calm and untroubled, the still eye at the center of all that turning brilliance. The light circles and circles, patient, unhurried despite its blaze, and at last, ring by ring, it spirals inward, dimming as it nears the dark, until it slips over the edge of the seeable and is gathered into the keeping at the center. It is one of the great spectacles of creation, a slow waltz of light around a serene dark, and it has been turning, somewhere, in some galaxy, in every moment of your life and every moment before it, a beauty pouring out across the universe, whether or not any eye was ever there to see. And here, once more, is the thread woven softly through even this. The matter in that bright disk is not falling, not plunging, not crashing. It is circling, slowly, in long patient orbits, taking its time, in no hurry to reach the center. Some of it circles for a very long while before it ever drifts in. And the center it eventually reaches is not a floor beneath the disk, but again, a moment ahead in the disk's long turning, the completion of its slow inward waltz. Even here, in the brightest and most dramatic place in all the cosmos, there is no plummeting, no terror, only the slow turning of light around a quiet dark, and the patient, unhurried, gathering inward of all things toward a tender completion. A direction in time dance toward, ring by glowing ring, in no hurry at all. Let your breath be like that turning disk for a moment, slow and circling and warm. Breathe in and feel the breath gather, the way the disk gathers light. Breathe out and feel it release, slow and unhurried, with nowhere to be. There is no rushing in the disk, and there is no rushing in your breath. In and a soft turning, out and a slow release. You do not have to deepen it or change it, only let it turn on its own the way the great wheels of light turn on their own, patiently, beautifully, asking nothing. Now I would like to take you on the drifting interlude in earnest, the long-imagined descent, and I want you to know that you do not have to picture it clearly. The words will do the picturing, and you may simply rest beneath them like rest beneath a slow rain. So let yourself imagine, only as much as is easy, that you are no longer lying in your room, but floating, far out in the deep, in a serene and bodiless way, weightless, warm, entirely safe. There is no cold here. Though space is cold, you are wrapped in warmth, sealed in it, the warmth of being held. There is no breathlessness. Though space has no air, you breathe easily, slowly, as you are breathing now. And far ahead of you, you can see the great wheel of gold turning, and at its heart the round of quiet dark, and you understand, in the calm way one understands things in a dream, that you are drifting toward it, slowly, and that there is nothing to fear. You drift. The wheel of light grows wider before you, its gold deepening, its turning grand and slow. You feel no wind, no rush, no falling in the belly, only the smooth and weightless ease of being carried. The stars behind you gather, by the bending of their light, into a brilliant ring, a crown, a circle of all the suns of the universe pooled together at your back and curving overhead. And ahead, the dark center grows, calm and round and patient, the stillest thing you have ever seen, a quiet you could sink into the way you sink into a deep and dreamless sleep. You are not afraid. There is no part of you that is afraid. There is only the drifting, and the warmth, and the slow turning light, and the calm dark ahead that has been waiting all along with great patience to receive you into its keeping. You cross the bright ring of the disk now, slipping above its turning plane, and the light wheels beneath you like a city seen from very high at night, a vast, slow spiral of warm gold, every part of it moving, every part of it patient. You pass over it, weightless, and ahead the dark center fills more and more of your view, until it is no longer a circle ahead of you, but a great soft dome, a horizon of its own, a roundness curving away in every direction, the largest and stillest thing in all your seeing. And you cross its edge, the way the ship crossed the line of the sea, the way you cross from one moment into the next, without a bump, without a jolt, without the smallest sensation, knowing only afterward, if at all, that you have passed within. The crown of starlight behind you draws together into a single shrinking window of brightness, and the world you have left gathers itself, with great tenderness, into that one bright pane, smaller and smaller, dearer and dearer, the way the whole of a long day gathers into one last faint thought before sleep. And now there is only the drifting inward, smooth and weightless and unhurried, and you understand, with the calm certainty of a dream, that nothing is below you, that there is no floor coming up to meet you, that the center you are drifting toward is not a place at all, but the soft completion of the journey, a moment in your own quiet time, arriving the way all moments arrive, by simply being reached. There is no struggle in you, there is no fear in you, there is only the long, smooth ease of being carried forward, weightless, warm, toward a stillness that has been waiting all along to hold you. And you let yourself be carried. You let yourself drift, you let the current be the current, and you stop entirely the long old habit of rowing. The bright window of the outside world dwindles to a single point of gold and holds there, faint and tender, like the last ember of a fire in a warm room, like the last waking thought before the dark takes you softly under. Let yourself stay there, in that drifting, for as long as you like. There is no need to come back. There is no end of the journey you must witness, no conclusion you must reach. You may simply drift, weightless and warm and unafraid, toward the calm and patient center, for as long as the night lasts, and if you fall asleep mid-drift, that is the most fitting thing of all. For sleep is only the same drifting by another name, the same letting go, the same forward easing into a soft and certain dark. The traveler and the sleeper are doing the very same thing. They are both being carried, weightless, toward a stillness ahead, with nothing to hold and nothing to fear, and nothing left to do but let the current take them. Let me now return us, slowly and without any jolt, to a few last facts about these objects. The kind of facts that make good company in the low hours, when the mind wants something to rest upon that is true and vast and far away. Consider how old these great hearts are. The largest black holes at the centers of galaxies have been gathering and growing since very near the beginning of the universe, since the first few 100 million years after everything began, when the earliest stars were newly young and the cosmos was a different, hotter, brighter place. They have been keeping their patient watch for nearly the whole age of time, more than 13 billion years, a span so vast that the entire history of the Earth, the whole long story of the continents drifting and the seas rising and the mountains wearing slowly down, fits inside it many times over. To contemplate something that old is to feel, pleasantly, very small and very held, a single brief, warm spark of awareness flickering for one night beneath structures that have been turning patiently since the dawn of all things. And consider, too, how slow their changes are. A black hole at the center of a galaxy may take millions of years to noticeably grow, may take spans beyond all counting to fade. They are the least hurried things in all of creation, the most patient, the most willing to take their time. Beside them, every rush and deadline and pressing worry of a human day is revealed for what it is, a small and passing flicker, a thing that will not matter in 1,000 years, let alone in the long, slow turning of these ancient hearts. There is a deep relief in measuring your worries against such patience, in remembering that the universe is in no hurry at all, that it has all the time there is and more, and that you, tonight, are allowed to borrow a little of that unhurriedness, to let your own small clock slow and stretch and pool, the way time itself slows and stretches and pools in the deep valleys of space. There is one more idea I want to lay beside you in the dark, the strangest and most dreamlike of all, and I offer it not as fact, but as one of the soft possibilities the physicists allow themselves to wonder about in their quietest hours. Some of them have asked whether the deep center of a black hole, where our equations run out of words, might not be an ending at all, but a kind of doorway. whether the gathered matter and time might pass through into something else, some other region, some other place, or even some other unfolding of space entirely. No one knows. It may not be so. But it is a thought that has lived for a long time in the imaginations of serious people. The idea that what looks, from outside, like a final gathering in might be, from some other vantage we cannot reach, a slow pouring out, a beginning rather than an end, the way a river vanishing into the ground in one place may rise again, far off as a clear, cold spring. I do not tell you this so you will believe it. I tell you because there is something restful in holding the possibility loosely, in letting the very thing we feared as an ending soften, in the imagination, into a passage, a threshold, a turning rather than a stopping. So many of the things we fear as endings turn out, when we finally reach them, to be passages, doorways into rooms we could not see from where we stood. And sleep itself is exactly such a passage, is it not? A thing that looks, from the shore of waking, like a kind of vanishing, a letting go of the self and the day and the world, and yet is in truth only a doorway, a passage through the dark into the morning, a place we go and return from every single night of our lives without ever once being harmed. You have passed through that doorway thousands of times. You will pass through it again tonight, softly, and you will rise again in the morning on the far side of it, as you always have. There is nothing to fear in the passage. It is only a turning, only a direction in time, only the soft current carrying you through the dark and out again into the light. So let the center of the black hole be, for you tonight, not an ending but a doorway. The way sleep is a doorway. The way the deep middle of the night is a doorway you pass through on your way to the morning. Let the very deepest dark hold no terror, only the promise of a turning, a coming through, a far green shore. You are not falling toward an end. You are drifting toward a passage, and on the far side of every passage there is more, always more. The morning, the light, the next peaceful day. There is nothing at the bottom but a turning. There is nothing in the dark but a doorway, and you may go toward it without the smallest fear, the way you have gone toward sleep 10,000 times before, and woken, every time safe. Let me gather you now, slowly, back toward your own body in your own room, because we are coming, in no hurry, toward the close of our long wandering, and I want you fully settled before we let the night take over entirely. Feel, once more, the surface beneath you, holding all of your weight, asking nothing of your muscles. Feel the warmth around you, the covering of the dark, the quiet of the room. Feel your breath, slow and easy, turning like a patient wheel of light, in and out, gathering and releasing, with nowhere to be. There is nothing left for you to do tonight. There is nothing left for you to understand. We have traveled all the way to the center and found there no terror, no floor, no falling, only a moment, only a completion, only a doorway, only a soft and patient stillness that asks nothing of you and means you no harm. And as we begin to close, let me hold the thread up one last time so you can see how it is run, unbroken, through everything. We began afraid of a bottom, of a floor at the end of a long fall, of a hard and final place we might crash upon. And step by step, drifting inward together, we found that there is no such floor. The horizon was not a wall, but a quiet line, crossed without a jolt. The throat was not a plunge, but a weightless drifting, a free fall that feels like floating, like the deepest rest. The center was not a place at all, but a moment, a when and not a where. Ahead of us in time, the way tomorrow is ahead, the way morning is ahead, the way the deep part of sleep is ahead. There was never anything to fall onto. There was only ever a direction in time, a soft forward easing, a current carrying us patiently toward a stillness that has been waiting all along with nothing but patience. The bottom of a black hole is not a place to fall. It never was. It is, and has been all night long, a direction in time. And you have been drifting along your own such direction since the moment we began, toward your own soft completion, toward your own still center, toward the deep and certain rest of sleep. Let me linger a little longer here in the low part of the night, because there is no rush to end, and the longer we drift, the deeper you may sink. I want to return once more to the matter of being carried, because it is, I think, the truest comfort of all that we have found tonight, the one to hold most loosely and most long. All night we have spoken of currents and folds and the shape of space doing the moving while the traveler simply rests within it. And this is not only a fact about black holes, it is a fact about you, here, now, on this turning earth. For you, too, are being carried, always, in ways you never have to think about. The earth carries you, spinning beneath you at a speed beyond all running, and you feel none of it, only stillness. The earth carries you around the sun, a journey of unthinkable distance every single year, and you feel none of that either, only the slow change of the seasons. The sun carries you, and all its planets, in a vast, slow orbit around the heart of the galaxy. A journey so long that since the first humans looked up and wondered, we have traveled only the smallest arc of it. You are being carried, right now, on a great wheeling journey through the dark, at speeds and across distances you cannot feel, and have never once had to steer, and will never have to steer, and you are perfectly safe. So you have always been the traveler in the fold of space, weightless, carried, asking nothing, steering nothing, held within a vast and patient motion that does all the moving for you. You were being carried before you were born, and you will be carried long after this night. And tonight, all you are doing, the only new thing, is letting yourself feel it, letting yourself rest into the carrying. Letting go of the small and tiring illusion that you must row your own boat through the dark. You do not. You never did. The current has you. The fold of space has you. The turning earth and the wheeling sun and the patient galaxy all have you, and they are taking you, gently, where you are meant to go. And where you are meant to go tonight is only into sleep, only into the soft and certain dark, only into rest. Let your breath slow a little more. Let the spaces between your breaths grow a little longer, not by forcing them, but by allowing them, the way you would allow a tired child to fall quiet. There is nothing you need to say to yourself now. There is nothing you need to settle or solve or finish before you sleep. The day is complete, the way a star's long shining is complete, the way the inward journey is complete at its center. Not by striking anything, but by being fully lived and willingly set down. You may set the whole day down now. You may hand its weight entirely to the dark, the way the dying star hands its weight to the shape of space. And rest. There is a question the physicists ask about these objects that I have saved for last, because it is the tenderest of all, and it folds back into everything we have drifted through tonight. They ask whether a black hole remembers. When all that matter falls in, all those stars and all that light, each carrying its own particular story, its own arrangement, its own deep hidden pattern. Does the black hole somehow keep that story, or is it smoothed away into a single featureless dark? For a long time it seemed the stories must be lost, erased, smoothed flat. And this troubled the physicists deeply, because the universe, as far as we can tell, does not truly erase, it keeps its accounts. And so they have come, slowly, to believe that the stories are not lost after all, that they are written, somehow, in the faintest ripples at the very edge of the horizon, kept in a way we do not yet fully understand, carried out again, perhaps, in that slow, patient glow across the long ages of the black holes breathing away. Nothing is forgotten. Even here, in the deepest dark, in the place we most feared as an erasure, the stories are kept, held in trust, written in light too faint to see, waiting patiently across spans of time beyond all imagining to be told again. Let that be one of the last things you carry down into sleep. The idea that nothing is forgotten, that even the deepest dark is a keeping and not an erasing, that the universe holds its stories tenderly and lets nothing fall away. Your own day, with all its small forgotten moments, is kept too. In you, in the tender folds of memory and the patient work of the sleeping mind, which gathers the day inward as you rest, sorting and keeping and weaving the way the black hole gathers light, the way the disk turns its slow gold inward toward the calm center. You do not have to do that gathering. It will happen on its own. While you sleep, the patient inward keeping of the day, the soft writing of its stories into the deep places of you. All you have to do is let the dark take you, and trust that nothing of worth will be lost, that the night is a keeping and not an erasing, that you will wake with the day folded safely inside you, and the morning waiting on the far side of the doorway. And so we have wandered all the way to the center of the question, and all the way to the center of the night, and we have found, at the bottom of the black hole, no terror and no floor, but only a moment, a keeping, a doorway, a stillness, a direction in time. We have found that the thing we feared most, when we drifted close and looked at it without hurry, turned out to be one of the most patient and least threatening structures in all of creation. A still heart at the center of a turning wheel, an anchor, a quiet keeping place, a deep, slow breath of the cosmos drawing in and one day letting go. We have found that to drift toward it is not to fall, but to float, not to be crushed, but to be carried, not to end, but to be completed. The way a long day is completed at its tranquil evening, the way you are being completed now, drifting, weightless, toward the deep and certain rest that has been waiting for you, with great patience all along. Let me offer you one last drifting image before we begin to close. The simplest of all, to hold loosely as the night takes over. Imagine the whole of it now, not in detail, but as a single feeling, the warm dark, the slow turning wheel of distant gold, the crown of folded starlight, the calm round center waiting with infinite patience, and you, small and warm and weightless, drifting toward it without fear, carried by a current you do not have to row, easing forward into a stillness that means you only well. Hold that whole picture as one soft warmth in your chest, and let it loosen and blur and fade as you sink, the way a dream loosens and blurs at the edge of sleep, the way the bright window of the outside world dwindled, for our traveler to a single tender point of gold. You do not have to keep the picture. Let it fade. Let everything fade, slow and easy, into the soft and certain dark. For there is nothing more for you to do tonight, and nothing more for you to know. We have come to the bottom of the question, and the bottom turned out to be not a floor, but a kindness, not a falling, but a being carried, not a place, but a quiet direction in time. The same direction you are easing along now, breath by slow breath, toward morning. You are safe. You have always been safe. You are being carried, as you have always been carried, and all that is asked of you now is to let yourself be carried into sleep. But the night is long, and there is no hurry to end, so let us drift a while longer over a few more quiet wonders, the way you might linger in a warm bath after the water has begun to cool in no rush to rise. Let me tell you how astronomers came to see, with their own instruments, the shadow of one of these distant hearts, because it is a story of patience that suits the low hour. To photograph a black hole, you must see something that gives off no light of its own, and you must see it across distances so vast that the object, despite being larger than our whole solar system, appears in our sky no bigger than a single grain of sand held up against the moon. No ordinary telescope, however grand, could ever resolve so fine a thing. And so a great company of astronomers scattered across the whole earth did something patient and beautiful. They joined their separate telescopes together, on mountaintops and in deserts and on high cold plateaus, all of them looking at the same faint target on the same nights, and they combined their gathered light by careful arithmetic, as though the whole planet were a single lens, a single eye as wide as the world. And after collecting so much information that it could not be sent across the internet but had to be carried physically on stacks of hard drives flown between continents, after months and months of patient computation, an image slowly emerged, the way a photograph in an old dark room slowly rises out of the blank paper. And there it was, a ring of warm light around a round of perfect dark, the shadow of a giant, the first time the human eye had ever truly looked one in the face. Think of the patience in that, and let it slow your own breathing further. Years of work, the cooperation of hundreds of people across the whole Earth, telescopes joined into a single planetary eye, hard drives flown across oceans, all to catch one faint round shadow at the heart of a galaxy 50 million years of light away. And what they found, when at last the image rose, was not a monster, not a maw, not a horror, but a thing of strange and quiet beauty. A ring of warm gold around a calm dark center, almost like a halo, almost like the still pupil of a vast and patient eye looking back across the universe. The thing we had feared for so long, when we finally looked it in the face, turned out to be beautiful, and calm, and still. There is a deep lesson in that, the kind the low hours of the night are good at receiving, that so many of the things we fear in the dark, when at last we turn and look at them with patience and without hurry, reveal themselves to be far gentler, far stiller, far more beautiful than the fear had ever let us guess. So let any last shadow in your own mind be like that, a thing you can turn and look at without fear, knowing that it too, when seen clearly, is likely calmer and kinder than the fear has told you. The dark of your own room is only the dark, holding nothing but the quiet and the familiar shapes of your familiar things. The dark of sleep is only a doorway, one you have passed through safely 10,000 times. And the great dark at the heart of the galaxy is only a still center, a patient keeping place, a calm round eye of gold and shadow that means you no harm and never could. There is nothing in any of these darks to fear. There is only quiet and keeping and the soft promise of the morning. Let us drift, then, over one final wonder, the slow far future of these objects, because it is the most peaceful vista of all, and a fitting place to rest before we close. Far ahead in time, far beyond the lifetime of every star now shining, far beyond the age when the last stars will have burned low and the galaxies will have faded into long, cold quiet, the black holes will remain. The last great structures, the final patient keepers, holding their gathered light through the long darkness. And then, even they, across spans of time so vast the numbers become a kind of hush, will begin their slow, faint breathing away, releasing their kept light back into the wide dark, particle by particle, glow by patient glow, until at last, in the unimaginably distant future, even the greatest of them will have softly, gently, completely returned everything they ever held to the wide and even quiet, and dissolved, like the last warmth of a fire returning to the cool air of the room, like the last ripple smoothing from the surface of a pond, like the last thought loosening and fading at the edge of sleep. The universe will grow still and even and soft, all its gathered things returned, all its accounts settled, all its stories told and let go. A vast and peaceful evenness, the deepest rest of all. And there is no sorrow in that far stillness, only peace, the peace of something complete, the peace of a long day fully lived and willingly set down, the peace of a fire that has given all its warmth and may now rest, the peace of a sleeper who has drifted all the way down into the deep, dreamless dark and rests there, whole and safe, until the morning. That far stillness is not an ending to fear, it is a completion to trust, the same completion you are drifting toward now, smaller and nearer and softer. The quiet completion of your own long day, the willing setting down of your own gathered weight, the deep and certain rest that waits for you, as it waits, in the end, for everything, with nothing but patience and nothing but peace. Let me drift with you over one more tender consideration before we draw toward the close, because the low hours are generous, and there is room yet for wonder. I want you to think, slowly, about how much of this story is made not of substance but of shape. We began expecting to find, at the bottom, something, some stuff, some hard material we could name and touch. And again, drifting inward, we found instead not stuff but shape, not substance but geometry, not a thing but a bending of space and a leaning of time. The horizon was not a wall of any material, it was a shape in the geometry of the possible. The drifting inward was not a falling through any medium, it was a following of the curve. The center was not a substance at all, but the deep limit of a shape, the place where the curving runs as far as our equations can follow. A black hole, in the end, is one of the purest things in nature, made almost entirely of shape, of the bending of the fabric, of pure geometry given depth by gathered mass. It is less like a rock and more like a valley, less like an object and more like the slope of a hillside, less like a thing and more like a direction. And there is something restful in that, in remembering that the deepest structures of the universe are made not of hard substance, but of soft shape, of curve and slope and lean, of the patient bending of the fabric that holds everything. The world is gentler in its foundations than it appears on its surface. Beneath the hardness of things lies not more hardness, but smoothness, the smooth curving of space, the smooth leaning of time, the smooth slopes down which all things drift and settle and rest. You yourself, lying there, are resting in those smooth slopes, held in the gentle curve the earth makes in the fabric, drawn down into your bed not by any harsh pull, but by the soft leaning of space itself, the same soft leaning that carries the moon around the earth, and the earth around the sun, and the sun around the heart of the galaxy. You are resting in the same gentle geometry that shapes the whole cosmos, the same smooth curving that drifts the stars along their slow orbits, and it is holding you, Right now, with the same patience, it holds everything, asking nothing, only cradling you in its soft slope as you ease down into sleep. So let the hardness go out of your body, the way the universe at its foundations is not truly hard at all. Let your muscles, which have braced and held all day, soften and lengthen and rest. Let the hard edges of your worries blur and smooth, the way the harsh infinity at the center softens, in the physicist's hopes, into something rounded and finite and kind. Let everything in you that has been holding firm against the day ease, instead, into the soft curve of rest, the gentle slope that carries all things down into stillness. There is no hardness you need to keep tonight. There is only the smooth and patient geometry of rest, holding you, leaning you, carrying you down into the soft and certain dark. And as the night deepens around you, and your breath slows, and the long thread of our wandering draws toward its quiet end, let yourself rest in the simplest truth of all that we have found, that the thing we feared was kinder than we knew, that the bottom was no bottom at all, that the fall was a floating, and the floor was a doorway, and the end was a completion, and that you, drifting along your own soft direction in time, are as safe tonight as the stars are safe in their slow orbits, as safe as the moon is safe in its long fall around the earth that it never strikes, as safe as everything is safe that has given up its rowing and let the patient current carry it home. Let me stay with you a little longer yet, drifting over the small, everyday echoes of all this, because the grand cosmic ideas become most soothing when we find them mirrored close to home. Think of how water finds the low places, how a stream eases always downhill, not because it is pulled by anything cruel, but only because it follows the slope, taking the easiest path, the path of least resistance, settling toward the lowest rest it can find. A black hole is, in a way, the deepest low place in all the world, the lowest rest the fabric can offer, and everything that nears it eases toward it the way water eases downhill, gently, naturally, taking the easy path, settling toward rest. There is nothing forced in it, nothing violent at its heart, only the oldest and softest tendency in nature, the tendency of all things to ease toward their rest, to settle into the low and peaceful places, to find at last the deepest stillness available to them, and to come to rest there, complete. And you are doing this very thing tonight. You are easing toward your own low place, your own deepest rest, taking the easy path, following the gentle slope of the night downward into sleep, settling the way water settles, the way the stream finds the tranquil pool at the bottom of the valley, the way all things in the whole patient universe ease toward their rest. You do not have to push yourself there. Water does not push itself downhill, it only stops holding itself up and lets the slope do the rest. So you need only stop holding yourself up, stop holding the day open. Stop holding the thoughts upright, and let the gentle slope of the night carry you down, the way it carries everything down, the way it has carried sleepers down into rest since the first night the world ever knew. Think, too, of how a top spins, how it stays upright and steady only while it turns, drawing its stillness from its motion, calm at its center precisely because it wheels. The galaxies are like that, vast slow tops, staying whole and steady through their turning, and the black holes at their hearts are the still points around which the turning steadies itself, the calm center of the spin. And you, too, have a still center, a quiet place within you that does not change with all the turning of your days. A calm core beneath the spinning of your thoughts and tasks and worries, and it is there now, beneath everything, steady and quiet, the still point around which your whole busy life has been turning all along. Let your awareness settle toward that still center now, beneath the spin of the day, into the calm core of yourself. The hush that was there before the day began and will be there when it is done, the steady stillness at the heart of all your turning. Rest there. Let the spinning of the day blur and slow at its edges, while you settle into the still center, the calm pupil of the eye, the quiet heart of the wheel, where there is only peace and patience, and the soft and certain approach of sleep. We have drifted now through nearly all the wonder I have to give you tonight, through horizons and throats and centers, through dying stars and turning disks and the slow, far breathing away of the greatest hearts in the cosmos, through the patience of the astronomers and the kindness hidden in the equations and the soft truth that the thing we feared was a doorway all along. And through every part of it, the same thread has run, unbroken, smooth, the same hand smoothing the same sheet, that the bottom is not a place to fall, that it is a direction in time, that to drift toward it is not to plummet, but to be carried, weightless and warm and unafraid, toward a stillness that means us only well. You have followed that thread, or you have let it carry you, all the way to the deep middle of the night, and now there is almost nothing left but to let the thread loosen in your hand, and to let the night close softly over you, and to rest. Before we let the thread go entirely, let your breath turn once more like the slow wheel of light we pictured, gathering and releasing, in and out, with nowhere to be and nothing to reach. Feel how far down you have already drifted, how the room has grown distant, how the day has gathered itself into one small fading point of warmth far behind you, like the bright window dwindling for our weightless traveler. Feel how little of you is left holding anything up, how heavy and given over your body has become, how the surface beneath you takes all of it now, how nothing in you needs to brace or steer or watch. You have eased so far down the slope of the night already that there is hardly any waking left to set aside, only the last thin edge of it, loosening, blurring, ready to let go. Tonight has been about a question that sounded at first like it must have a floor to it. Tonight has been about the edge of a black hole, and how it is not a wall but a quiet line, crossed without a jolt. Tonight has been about the long throat of the valley, and how drifting down it is not a falling but a floating, a free fall that feels like the deepest rest. Tonight has been about the center, and how it turned out to be not a place at all, but a moment, ahead of us in time, the way tomorrow is ahead, the way morning is ahead. Tonight has been about dying stars learning to rest, and turning disks of warm gold, and the patient astronomers who joined the whole earth into a single eye. Tonight has been about how nothing is ever truly lost, how even the deepest dark is a keeping and not an erasing, how the greatest hearts of the cosmos breathe their gathered light back, at last, into the wide and even quiet. And through all of it, tonight has been about one soft and steady truth, woven through everything like a thread smoothing a sheet, that the bottom of a black hole is not a place to fall, but a direction in time. There was never a floor. There was never a floor. There was never a floor, only the soft incline of the hours, only the slope down which all things ease toward their rest. You are safe. You are safe. You are safe. Carried as you have always been carried, held as you have always been held, drifting toward sleep along the only direction there is. There is nothing to fall onto, There is nothing to fall onto. There is nothing to fall onto. Only a stillness ahead, only a doorway, only a completion, only the deep and certain rest that has been waiting for you all along. And none of this needs anything from you tonight. The galaxies do not need you to turn them. The stars do not need you to keep them burning. The great quiet hearts at the centers of all the wheeling islands of light do not need you to keep their patient watch. The universe is in no hurry, and it asks nothing of you, and it has held everything safely for 13 billion years without ever once needing you to help. So you may set it all down, every last weight, every last worry, every last small heavy thing you have carried into the dark, and rest, knowing that nothing depends on your wakefulness, that nothing will fall if you let go, that the whole vast patient cosmos will go on turning, gently, while you sleep. When this is over, another quiet exploration is waiting on the screen, another long, slow wandering through the wonders of the dark, ready to carry you onward if you are still awake to hear it, and ready to keep the silence company if you are not. You do not need to reach for it. You do not need to do anything at all. Let it begin on its own, in its own soft time, and let it find you already drifting, already carried, already easing down the slope of the night. If it begins and you are gone into sleep, that is the most fitting ending of all, the traveler asleep mid-drift, weightless and warm and unafraid. And before you go, here is one small question to leave drifting in the dark behind you. Nothing you must answer, only something to loosen your thoughts as they fade. If you could drift, weightless and unafraid, toward the still calm center of any wonder in all the cosmos, with all the time in the world and nothing to fear, which one would you let carry you down into sleep? Let the question float there, unanswered, soft, while you sink past it into rest. And now, let everything ease. Let your breath grow slow and long and easy, with nowhere to go. Let your body grow heavy and given over, every part of it held, every part of it at rest. Let your face soften, your jaw loosen, the space between your brows smooth flat. Let your shoulders sink a final fraction lower, away from your ears, fully set down. Let your thoughts loosen and blur and drift, each one easing toward the still center, none of them needing to be held. You are drifting now, weightless and warm, carried by a current you do not have to row, easing forward along the only direction there is, toward the soft and certain stillness that has been waiting for you, with great patience, all along. There is no floor, there is no falling, there is only the slow, kind slope of the night, and you drifting down it into rest. Sleep well.